All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking an absolutely massive Kabbalistic secret behind one of history's most famous figures, the patriarch Jacob, and his dual identity as Israel. We are pulling right from the deep dive sources of the Zohar, specifically surrounding Parashat Vayaki, and the intricate, mind-bending teachings of the Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria. We're going to completely decode the exact mechanics of why Jacob had two names. Because, they aren't just honorary titles. They function as an advanced dual-mode operating system of the soul. So I want you to really visualize this. Imagine Jacob on his deathbed, bathed in this dim Egyptian dawn. He's encircled by his sons. But according to the mystical tradition, he isn't just an old man passing away here. He's a literal cosmic conduit. His very presence is physically shifting forms. One side of him is shadowed, totally steeped in the intense restriction and judgment known as din. And the other side is radiant, just glowing with the expansive, infinite mercy, known as rachamim. And look, these aren't just poetic metaphors we're talking about. These are actual cosmic currents flowing back and forth between his two names, Jacob and Israel. Okay, moving into the sod, the secret, safe mode versus full system. Let's dive right into what this actually means. To really get this, we have to understand that Jacob isn't just a biological man here. In the Kabbalistic framework, he represents an entire dual-named operating system for navigating the spiritual universe. We can actually think about this using a modern tech analogy. Think of the soul as this highly advanced piece of hardware that has two distinct operating modes to survive the brutal span of history. It essentially uses dual-layer encryption keys, so depending on the environment, the soul can literally toggle between a heavily armored state of restriction and a completely unlocked state of expansion. Let's break down the two sides. On the left side of the spectrum, we have Yakov, Jacob. This is your safe mode. It's built purely for survival. It operates on the principle of restriction, or din, and its spiritual color frequency is red, which symbolizes severity and judgment. Yakov basically encrypts the soul. It armor plates it so it can survive the incredibly toxic environment of exile. Now, on the right, we have Israel. This is the full system. It's a totally open architecture state of being. It operates on rachamim, pure mercy and loving kindness, and its frequency is white, representing pure, unhindered spiritual greatness and light. So let's look at the Sephirotic mechanics and color coding. How exactly does this toggling happen? Well, if we look at the Kabbalistic tree of life, Yakov corresponds to the Sephirah of Tiferet, which translates to beauty or harmony. But mechanically speaking, Tiferet is the central balancing axis. It is the cosmic switchboard. Tiferet is the specific hardware that allows the soul to dynamically shift forms between the heavy restriction of Yakov and the massive expansion of Yisrael without causing a complete system failure. It's perfectly balancing the right and left columns of spiritual energy.
When you map out this mechanism, it's pretty incredible. We see that the system operates as Yakov by leaning into the Sephirah of Gevurah, which is severity. This forces the soul into an operating mode called katnut, meaning smallness or restriction. And that manifests as a red color shift. But when the environment is safe and allows for it, the system upgrades to Yisrael. It taps right into chesed, loving kindness. The operating mode becomes gadlut, meaning greatness or maximum expansion. And the spiritual color shifts to this radiant white. The identity is physically and spiritually shifting based entirely on the soul's current state and what its environment demands.
And the Zohar brilliantly connects this whole mechanical process to this fascinating verse from Psalms. With the pure, you show yourself pure, and with the crooked, you show yourself astute. Think about it. When Jacob was forced to deal with deceptive, highly hostile forces, like his brother Esau or his father-in-law Laban, he couldn't just walk around in the completely open, pure, undefended, white mode of Yisrael. That would be completely reckless. He had to activate the restrictive, severe, red mode of Yakov. He literally had to be astute, encrypted, and heavily armored just to survive. The sources back this up with some truly mind-bending mathematical code, too. The gematria or numerical value of the name Yakov is intrinsically tied to the name Elohim. Now, Elohim is the divine name that specifically represents strict judgment and severe limitation. The texts reveal that the numerical equivalent of Yakov aligns perfectly with exactly 2 names of Elohim. 2. This mathematical code proves that the Yakov identity is literally wrapped in a double layer of divine restriction and armor. Visualizing these frequencies makes it even clearer. The Yakov aspect channels its energy through exactly 5 severe channels of Gevurah. It's a very tight, highly controlled flow of energy designed specifically to ward off external threats. In stark contrast, when the Yisrael aspect is finally unlocked, it accesses the 13 ultimate frequencies of pure unifying light, the 13 attributes of mercy. So that shift from 5 to 13, That is the profound shift from intense, restricted survival to infinite spiritual unity.
All right, let's bring this into focus with some multi-gen metaphors, gaming, and engineering.
First up, the video game version. Imagine you're playing a high-level RPG. Your player character has the ability to dynamically switch between two forms. Step 1. Your character detects a highly hostile environment, completely swarming with enemies. Step 2. You hit a button and shift your character's form from, say, a vulnerable mage into a heavily armored tank, accessing restrictive powers to block incoming damage. Step 3. Once you clear the level and the threat is totally gone, you revert back to your radiant, fully powered, expansive form. That is exactly what Jacob is doing with his Yakov and Yisrael identities. It's spiritual loadout switching. Or, if you prefer, we can look at it through the lens of cosmic engineering. Inside the spiritual hardware, you basically have a dual-frequency signal toggling between two primary circuits. Signal A routes through the din, or judgment circuit. It deliberately reduces power output to prevent the system from being hacked or drained by external negative forces. Signal B routes through the rachamim, or mercy circuit, allowing for absolute maximum bandwidth and connection to the divine. And that toggle switch between them? It's triggered automatically by spiritual necessity. Now we arrive at the mystery in Egypt. Why Yakov now? This is the emotional climax. So here is the massive, overarching question of this whole explainer. God explicitly told him, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, right? He had successfully achieved the ultimate radiant state of Yisrael. So why, at the very end of his life, surrounded by his sons in Egypt, does the text deliberately revert to calling him Yakov? If he had reached the absolute peak of the spiritual mountain, why go back down?
The exhaustive answer lies in the environment. Egypt wasn't just a physical location on a map. It was the darkest, most spiritually toxic exile imaginable. To bring his family down there, and to prepare his sons for hundreds of years of slavery and spiritual darkness, the open architecture of Yisrael was just way too vulnerable. He had to activate the ultimate shield. He had to deliberately power down the expansive light and engage the heavily armored, encrypted safe mode of Yakov to protect his family's spiritual core from being totally assimilated and destroyed by Egypt.
And the Zohar gives us the absolute perfect proof text for this, stating clearly, when not among enemies, he is called Israel. When in a foreign land, he is called Jacob. The system worked perfectly. Jacob didn't lose his greatness at all. He actively deployed his restriction. To survive the crushing spiritual darkness of the Egyptian exile, that external restriction, the din, the red frequency of Yakov, it had to be fully and deliberately engaged until the day his descendants would finally be ready to be redeemed as the children of Israel.
So, the next time you find yourself facing an overwhelmingly toxic environment, ask yourself, is it time to deploy your expansive light, or is it time to activate your own inner Yakov and shield your core? Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.